Hi, welcome to me and my imaginary friends. I just realized I have to close the door. Be right back. I don't. There's roommates in the house, and I don't want any sort of any interruptions, even though they're probably like napping or something. But yeah, welcome back to me and my imaginary friends. I just realized that I don't really know how Twitch works, and not accidentally, they purposely delete your videos. So I'm probably gonna have to redo the first ball bounce uh, tutorial, and that's fine. It's always good to revisit a whole bunch of like things, but we're gonna do that again today, right? We are going to actually give we're gonna give our ball character a tail. So we're essentially gonna try to make it a sentient being. So we're gonna have it go from from here and then just like jump, or no, from down here and then it's just like whoop, 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 whoop. And because it has a tail, it's gonna have some drag action, right? Some follow through, and yeah, that's good. That's the whole purpose of what we'll be learning today. It's still very much a ball bounce, but this time it's a lot more controlled, right? It's not just like a bowling ball falling like last time. It's not like boom, 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 and then just keep rolling. It's more controlled. It's actually more in the lines of actually trying to animate an actual character. So I guess let's just get right into it. We have our stage, right? Here is the TV paint. Lovely music in the background. And yeah, so let's try to make the ground plane first. Oh, oh. There you go. Might be a bit like low, but it's fine. Whatever. We'll have the character jump like really high, and then say there's like, I don't know, an obstacle over here, and then they need to get over here. That's gonna be our stage, right? New anim layer, and we want to extend this cancel so that it repeats for at least 24 frames. Just because repeats, hold, just so that we don't have to worry about it. If anything, we could lock this frame, and then does that mean we get to draw this one? Sweet. Nope. Okay, cool. So this has to be selected to be able to draw in. We'll call this one background, right? And this one is going to be called ball with tail. Awesome. Right, so if you can remember from the previous two lessons, the first one being just a regular ball bounce that keeps going forever. There's no like gravity, or there's no like inherent sense of like it stopping from gravity afterwards. It's just constantly moving, right? There is gravity. It is falling down, but it's not being pulled again, and there isn't as much of a resistance going up, right? So it does fall down in gravity, and then it just stops its gravity after that point, and it just goes back up, and then gravity starts again, and it's essentially like we use that to loop the thing, and then the whole thing is that like that the physics in that doesn't really make sense, because if there's gravity, then there's a force driving it down while the ball is going up, which we showed in our second video, right? Our second video is the bowling ball. We actually had reference and everything. So what happens is the bowling ball goes down, and then because the bowling ball is really, really heavy, the gravity actually takes into effect as well. So it's dragging it down. The weight is dragging it down. It's not gonna go as high, right? It's gonna go like from here. It's gonna go boom, and then like over here, maybe like halfway mark, and then it's just gonna fall back down, and maybe even less than halfway mark, and then halfway back up on top of that, and then it's just gonna go back down. There's not a lot of squashing and stretching because it is a bowling ball, but you'll see like a very, very tiny little bit during that like super fast stretch pose, which is literally like right after the ball hits the ground, right? This time we are going to animate the character. Okay, we'll start off with just this little ball dude, right? Ooh. I feel like every time I go into TV Paint or like any sort of like drawing program, I always have to kind of like relearn how to draw again. And it's alright if you mess up, you just press Ctrl Z and keep going. I think I'm okay with that. So let's say we give him like a big squirrely tail, right? Bushy squirrely tail, right? We're only gonna draw it for the first drawing, and then you'll see what I'm gonna be doing, right? Oh, speaking of which, it should probably be best that I put this onto my Facebook. Control C. Going to Facebook to copy the link. Seems to be super slow right now. Do I even have internet? Is this really internet? One more time. There you go. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like loopy today, so I'm like trying to. It's been like you realize. I'll tell you in a bit, but boom. Okay, cool. That's it. I'm not gonna like super like type up a whole bunch of things. It's been quite a week. I actually had to take like a week break because it was like you know, things just happen. Life kind of does its thing, and then you kind of have to like take care of that first, and then you're like, all right, cool. Things are starting to like be okay and like ride things out. That's fine. Take care of yourself first before anything else, and then this work, everything here will still be here when you get back, right? Essentially, that's how I'm treating like a lot of my hobbies, like playing Smash Bros. I did that quite a lot. Playing D&D, right? I really like playing D&D, but I need to focus on myself now, at least for a little bit. And playing Magic the Gathering. That one is an incredibly new hobby, but I got really into it for like a small amount of time. It's not like I'm 100% gone, but yeah, it's just something that I'm gonna have to put on hold just for a sec, until I figure more things out. Anyways, so back to this animation. Our first drawing will just be this the squirrely ball thing over here. Our last drawing, just add empty images, right? Will just be the ball, right? That is not the same size ball. Also, happy Victoria Day weekend, right? the only reason I'm able to do this, despite my increasingly more hectic schedule, is because I literally only had like, I had today off, and you know, I had some time to kill. Why not? So it keeps getting, it's smaller. And alright, ball. It's close. It's close, but we'll go with this for now. Shift. Ooh, what am I doing? What was that? Go back here. Mixer, bin. Pencil. Cool. Nope, that is not what I wanted. Alt? Nope. Shift? Nope. What is the eraser tool again? Undo. Okay, well, we'll just use erase. It's not as clean, but it works. Okay, that's fine. So, for the purposes of what we're doing right now, we aren't going to add the tail, right? That's not going to what we're going to be focusing on. What we're going to do is have the ball go from here, jump to here, take a bigger leap, so above this rock, right? So it's a much more controlled leap than maybe he'll jump over here and try to control himself and then land up over here, right? He's not going to be rolling or anything. I guess he can have the tail kind of like roll up under him, but that's too complicated, so we're just going to try to simplify it as best as possible. So what do? We put in our contact points, right? Oh, cancel. Insert image. Okay. So right now there's a ball here, there's a ball here, there's nothing here. Let's turn on our light table so that we can actually see the size of these balls. Which was my folly earlier. That was my bad. Should have been having that on the whole time. Alright, there you go. Right? So green's previous frame, black is current frame, red is next frame, right? And we also said we wanted a ball. Insert image. Okay. And there's nothing here, so we'll draw a ball right here. Actually, yeah, we'll give it a bit of a squash. And you'll see in a bit why, but this is still considered a contact pose. By all means, you can have a contact pose that's doing this, right? But we're gonna try to simplify it. We're just gonna go from the stretch pose over here to the contact pose, which is just it squishing down and then back up again, right? Again, my balls look more like bread than actual ball itself. Goodness. Right? Let's try that again. There you go. It's a squished ball, right? So what are we gonna do now? I guess we will try to make the breakdowns. We'll have it. The breakdowns are pretty much the exact in between of each ball. So go to the first frame again, insert image. Okay. Maybe it's not gonna like squish as much. It just needs to get from here to here, and I'm gonna favor up over this side more because I kind of want it to lean in as a kind of like to make it a little bit more interesting. So over here again, insert image. Maybe over here, the ball can be right above here, right? And now I'm seeing it. We might actually have to squish this frame some when we get to it, but for now, that's what we're gonna stick with. And same over here at the in-between or the breakdown. And to our golden key, right? So this is our golden key. Oh no, not that's not our golden key. This is our golden key. Nope. This is a key. That's a key. This is our golden key again, right? Golden keys are essentially where your animation starts and where your animation ends at the very front and end parts. The keys are just kind of like the keys are still very much storytelling poses. It's just that they kind of break it down to what's the next pose that is more meaningful, right? It doesn't fully tell a whole story itself, but like what's the next pose that it needs to transition off of, right? This is our breakdown, breakdown, breakdown. Did I get that right? Nope, that is not right. Right here's the breakdown. G, B, K, B, K, B, G. Cool. So one helpful tool that can actually help us is using arcs. Like the previous episode, what we did was actually charted out where our ball and like where our ball is gonna be in space. And it helps you actually figure out where like how many keys should be in each frame. Like from here to here, there shouldn't be as many frames as you need from here to here or here to here, right? Because that's a short amount of time. You could probably have it go whoomp, whoomp, right? Whereas over here, you might want to like hold it for a little longer and then have it fall down. And the same for here. It's just trying to catch itself. So maybe it holds itself a little for a second, right? It's a much more controlled ball bounce. Oh. Then goes back up for a little bit and then back down. Very short amount of time. So it goes boom, 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 right? And then you can have it kind of roll a little bit and then roll back and then have the tail kind of like following. You'll see. You notice that we actually have not animated the tail yet, but because the tail itself isn't super important. It's essentially just following the path of the curve, right? At least that's how I like to think of it. It makes things a lot more visually interesting, and you can go a bit more realistic and actually have the tail have like some sort of substance on its own outside of like, okay, cool, maybe it wants to keep its own thing, but like maybe there's like it wants to keep its own shape, but like maybe there's like little frills at the very end that are like doing some sort of like dragging motion or like an overlapping motion, right? I will have to explain overlap sometime later, and it should have been this episode, but I don't feel it's 100% needed as of yet. I'll try to sprinkle it in. I just don't know exactly the best way to describe it. I just kind of feel it out myself. So let's try making an actual like giving it a path, right? Repeat again. So from here to here, right? To the middle of that. From here to here. And from here to here. Nope. From here to here. From here to here. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, what we can do is there. Awesome. So it's just following one path. We could probably like try to smooth this out a little bit. Make it less pointy and then more round. Right? Oof, that's gross. Don't know how to draw on tablets. But I'm trying. I am trying. Just lock that for a second, just in case. So I don't erase anything important. Right, okay, nope. And yeah, I guess that is it. Let me just cut brush. No, that's not a pencil. P. Nope. Navigator. Stroke. What's that? Is there? Okay, cool. I guess there's no hotkey for that. Looks a lot messier now that I've done this, but whatever. Okay, so this is our. Oof, really do not like this curve. I'm sorry I'm taking too much time on this, but like I am kind of a stickler with drawing, but I'm still super new with like drawing on the tablet, right? Yeah, I guess that's the best we can make it. This part. Alright, fuck it. The good thing about this is that we can actually like blur this out so it's not like super intrusive. Right? There you go. Cool. Looks like something inappropriate over here, but that's fine. We don't actually have to address that, or at least what it looks like. There you go. So we'll lock this and put the, okay, this is going to be called arc, right? So we're back at the ball bounce, right? We've defined our actual path. Now what do we need to do? We need the energy and the momentum to get actually from point A to point B, right? In this case, from our golden key to our breakdown. So I am actually gonna take a little bit of creative licensing in here and take some ideas from like Sonic the Hedgehog, because he is very much a ball in, you know, his games and in the way they animate him in the comics, and like in like Smash Bros or something, his ball warps, right? So it does kind of like this weird kind of like goopy thing, right? But it's still essentially squashing and stretching. It's still squashing to get into that pose. So it's a bit more of an anticipation, right? Instead of just being a loaf of bread like that, he's kind of looking. He's making himself kind of look like a bean and then shooting forward, right? Like he goes. Woo. So he like revs up first, kind of like his legs doing this, but with his whole body. So let's get right into it. Here, let's see if I can actually zoom in. Nope. Zoom in. Alright, cool. Cool. Exit that for a second. I wouldn't say you should work in the zoomed in mode the whole time, because you kind of get lost in the you kind of get lost in like the whole, you zone in essentially. You don't want to zone in. You want to see the whole animation as a full piece, as opposed to working like little bits at a time. But for this specific drawing, we're just gonna have to do that a little bit. So over here, we're kind of like, it's kind of like Bugs Bunny doing this, right? He's like doing this before he runs off this way into this direction. He's essentially kind of like swinging his arms. It's the same kind of like logic over here, where the squash is being pushed over here. He's kind of like pushing himself backwards before he can actually propel himself forwards, right? That way we also have this nice little like swing. Remember how we were talking about like arcs last time? Like arcs are very important in terms of making the animation feel nice and look nice. Now we actually have that, because we don't have to fully draw out, like we don't have to like fully draw out like there's like a whole arc that needs to go from here. It's just kind of implied, right? And so that's the anticipation, right? And I will actually shoot it out from here. So from here, insert image, okay, maybe a little further out. So we're still kind of getting the stretch out from here, but I kind of wanted to give it a little bit more weight and have it more have it be more grounded the whole time. So at least there's more parts over here where it's touching the ground, right? So it would kind of morph as if like someone's like sitting like this, like the body itself after a certain point can only hold itself straight up, but then there's like a big like gap over here, or like there's a big like bulge over here because of the stomach, right? Let's see if I can actually recreate this pose, right? This piece from here to here is very much solid. There's not a lot of like movement going on because there's no like space. It's all ribs. But then there's an open space over here where all the internal organs and stuff. That's where we actually get most of our movement, sideways and then back up and down, right? That's where you get like the beer gut coming out. We're kind of doing that except backwards. That's just personal artistic expression. You don't have to do that. You can do like the simple oval, right? But since there's not a lot of space, I'm trying to utilize whatever space I have in order to portray it the best way I can. Maybe less so over here, but it's still gonna be pretty prevalent, right? Right. So what we have is if we turn off the light table, the ball by itself with the tail, then it kind of like winds up and kind of shoots itself out, right? We've never lost that point of contact because it's kind of like morphing itself to swing out, right? It's swinging out using like a its weight. If anything, we can actually put another in between over here, just cause, right? Am I at the? Yep, I'm at the eraser. So. Right, so turn off the light table again. Pulls back a little bit. Starts shifting its weight or swinging its weight downwards. I think someone's using the fan or something outside the living room. And then pushes itself up. Right? Maybe this could be a bit more round. There you go. Over here as well. And cool. So this is essentially called our anticipation. It's what the ball is doing in order to portray that it's going a certain direction. We are anticipating that the ball is going to be moving to its to the right, right? I'm pointing to the left right now, so it's kind of like backwards. But we're anticipating that this ball over here is going to the right. So what we do is our brains have a natural tendency to kind of go backwards for a second. It's kind of like when you're first taking a step, right? It's kind of like when you're first taking a step. You kind of have to like shift your weight backwards So your foot can actually reach forward and then step forward, right? So imagine our feet over here. In order to actually start going forward, our hips start moving backwards, just to kind of like anticipate that movement. And that's just a very, very exaggerated version of it, right? It's not like we have to do this the entire time. That kind of looks more like a sneak, like whoop, 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 right? We'll get into walks later, but yeah, it's essentially the very basics of anticipations. There's a lot that actually goes into it, and we will dive into it in another episode. But for now, we're just gonna focus on a more controlled ball bounce, getting into the tail, right? So from here to here, we'll add insert image. Okay, light table again. I guess from here now we can actually start mapping out our arcs, or where things will go, because we've already kind of left the squish position, and this is considered our stretch, right? So our stretch is from here, I guess, and then half of that with favors to the top, and half of that with favors to the top again. That's the exact middle. And this is gonna squash. I'm gonna have to. Ooh, gosh, no. Cool. That's our exact middle. That would be our stretch positions. Then in between, and then more so if we need more, right? In between. So because we're trying to control our descent back down here, we're gonna try to really try to hold the ball here until like we really need to let it go. The ball is gonna jump up, and the final thing is over here. The final golden key is over here. So in between, and that should be it. You'll realize why there's 2 ticks over here for keys. It's because we're trying to control our weight back down. It's essentially like when someone jumps and then there's that huge kind of like recoil, or kind of like they're just kind of holding themselves down in order to, like, when they explode kind of like back up again, it's not going to be as explosive, right? But now that we have our arcs, we lock that again. Go back over here. There's no key over here, so that is our next thing. This was what we considered our stretch, right? So, oh gosh. Hey, that's not bad. In terms of ovals, right? Don't think it's long enough. Yet. There you go. And maybe over here it's gonna be more circular as opposed to ovally. So insert image. Okay. Did I say how bad I am at drawing circles? Probably have. A couple of thousand times. I'm not satisfied with this now. It looks nice. It looks very ovally, but now it's too small. There you go. I think that works. So it starts falling back down. We will now try to establish the actually the squash again, right? So the ball hasn't fully touched the ground yet, so we can still keep it fairly just ovalish, right? So from here to here, start image, okay. In between that, so fatter than this oval, but a little more taller than this circle. Insert image, okay. God, I suck at drawing circles. This is what happens when you hone in too much, or start going way too close. You don't actually have any sort of control that you think you do. Alright. Gonna have to be okay with this. At least gonna try to be. Okay. Can I move this? Nope. Don't think I can. Nope. Nope. Alright. That's fine. So what we have now is the first part, just kind of like the ball bouncing. So it does a bit of an anticipation, jumps, and then lands, right? This drawing over here we're definitely gonna have to change because we needed to squish a bit more so that it can actually shoot up. And now that I think about it, it's actually better that we hold it there like we are over here. Like hold the frame a little bit. Like we really need to store up that power to like shoot itself back up. Right? Turn on lock. And this frame. So you're gonna have to delete that one. Turn on light table.
Hold on. We're entering Venom airspace. Back off, Fox.
Turn it into a squishy bean.
We were so close
Right.
to Venom. Dang.
And next frame.
We're entering Venom airspace.
Insert image. Okay. Really try to squish that in a bit more. So it's already starting to like shoot up at the top.
Dang.
At this point, it doesn't even look like a ball anymore, or something that follows the same shape, or same form. Squash and stretch. Remember, kids, I need to at least maintain form of what you were drawing. So there you go. So it squishes more, but it's a little higher at the top over here, right? And shoo, from here, actually insert image again. Okay. Here's where we can really stretch out the ball, right? It can be super skinny. And I like making sound effects when I'm working. Insert. Oh, this ball needs to definitely either be bigger over here or be skinnier over here. Whoopsie daisies. I'm just gonna delete this. No, I'm not. I am gonna use this as a reference. Insert image. Okay. So it's a little skinnier than what I originally drew up. Right? I'm going to be erasing this. this up a little bit. And yeah, so from here, this ball, this bean is a bit big. Maybe we can squash it down some more. And this bean is a little big, so we're gonna have to squish that as well. That's my phone. Hold on a second. I just had to put my phone on silent. This looks like it's making its way backwards. Right, we don't want that to happen, so maybe just keep it on this line over here. While really pushing it at the top over here. It looks like a banana. Yeah. Or a cashew. Okay, cool. Insert an image over here. I'm doing this really fast just because you've already seen me do squash and stretch before. I'm just being more artistic in terms of like squashing and stretching because I feel like we kind of already get the concept, and there's no one way to squash and stretch, right? You can have it be more rigid, have it be more just flat as you saw, but you could also be more cartoony with it. Like you can actually lead the direction where things are going, right? So over here, ooh. All right. Am I still in? Yep. So this ball is gonna be taller than this, but skinnier than that as well. So it's not gonna be like 100% skinny like this. It's gonna have some form while still being elongated in a certain way. What did I do? Alright. Guess nothing. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Halfway between that is... Nope. Insert image. pretty much gonna look like this circle already, but slightly elongated on one side. And again, now at this point I'm just gonna draw the same circle 2 more times. The red circle, I mean. Just for simplicity's sake. I could keep going in betweens, but like I don't really have paper, right? To put the drawings on top of each other. Exit that. Insert image. Again, we're gonna be drawing that same circle to the red circle right now. And nothing as much is gonna change, except it's just gonna be in between the green one and the red one. The green one on the right being what I mean. Right. Shoom, shoom. Right. So it goes back up here. We are going to be working backwards, actually, like we did on this side. So we started off with this, and then we had this, which is essentially just a circle, and then we elongated it, then shortened it, and then normal, and yeah, essentially our thought process going from here to here, except it's just yeah. Ooh, what the heck? Why is there 2 spaces? Hold on. There's 2 keys. Alrighty then. Just use this key right here. And since we have the light table, why don't we just actually utilize it? We'll just essentially follow this same shape on this side. Right? How's that looking? So, looks more like one of those string beans, if anything, right? Where am I going with this? Nope. Why do I have the background selected? There you go. Nope. And backwards again. So shorter than this ball, but a little fatter as well. So in between this and that key right there. If anything, we could probably just use this as well as the shape. Kind of like give ourselves our markers on the sides over here so that they don't go over and under. Alright, that worked well. And insert image. Okay. Turn on this ball. Pretty much follow this shape, this one right here. Just on the opposite side. And 2 normal circles that kind of stay in the same kind of shape range as this. So insert key or insert image. Okay. Halfway in between this and this other circle. I'm gonna do that trick again by going to 300 and drawing circles like this. That's not bad. Okay, cool. I'll stick with that and then just erase what I need to erase. Come over here, insert image, okay. Not bad. Cool. And now it's falling back down, right? Turn off the light table. See how much more power this is giving it just because it's like staying in that one frame a little longer, right? So it goes over here, falls down. So over here we can actually do that same technique of like doing this. Because it's a more controlled ball bounce. It's not 100% like, it is sentient, so it will try to control itself down. It's not like a ball where it's just gonna like, it's acting upon the energies it's doing, and it doesn't have control on its own. It's very much alive, right? We're gonna try to treat it like one of those slimes from Breath of the Wild, you know, Legend of Zelda. Them like having to like squish first and then shoot back up. So I'm thinking we might need to redraw this as well. That is fine. We just need to turn on the light table and erase. So over here. So it catches itself. This is technically our contact pose, right? Actually, this definitely is our contact pose. Because it's the first pose that makes contact on the ground. Right? There's our jelly bean again. Right? Maybe a little thinner over here. Just a little bit. And there you go. See if that makes sense. It's a little fatter. It's a little. I can make it a little bit fatter. A little bit. Just a little bit. That way is also there's a nice arc to it, right? So, and I guess we'll have to extend our actual frames because these aren't reaching anymore. So we'll give it another 5 frames. Hold, okay. Apply. Hold, repeat, apply. And now we have our background again. So over here, lock these. From this frame, we said that there's going to be 2 frames over here. So very much like this, where it squishes. We're trying to control its weight back down, so it's not going to have to jump as high. Right, so from here, insert image, okay. Already transferring or swinging the weight back up. The longer it is held onto the ground, the more control and power you have, right? If you're coming from an explosive state to like a more passive state, the longer you hold that bottom thing, the more like kind of the more of a cushion that you need, just so that you can actually control the energy going back up. It's still gonna have to go up because there's still a lot of energy. You can't just like have that disappear, but you're gonna need to somehow control that and maybe have more keys where the ball is at the very bottom, just so that it looks and feels more like it, you know, is being controlled on the way up. Okay, whatever, we'll get to it. So that's these 2 keys over here. I'm taking a lot of actually ideas from Sonic the Hedgehog, because this is essentially like his ball bounces. Like it's not just he is a ball and he's jumping. It's a very, very controlled ball in a sense. He is alive. So even when he's in his ball state, he doesn't have. It's not like he has no control of where he's going. If anything, he actually uses that to like launch himself forward, or like from tree to tree, or from building to building. if you watch the old school animation, Sonic animations, they're really really good at portraying weights and direction, and like even with just a simple ball, it's amazing. The voice acting wasn't really that great, but like, ooh, like just some really really good animation. Make this a little fatter. If anything, we could have actually made this a little bit bigger as well. Okay. And we'll just do a regular ball over here. Ball's getting bigger and smaller and I don't like it. I don't like it. Go back to 300%. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay, there you go. That's fine. Okay, cool. Next ball. I don't think we need to draw the in-between from here to here. It's fine. It's quick anyways. Because we have the squash, and then it's settles. We do need an in-between from here. We do need like two in-betweens from here, from the breakdown over here to this golden key, right? So let's go back over here. Boom. Again, we are working backwards because we need to get that squash in. What the heck? I really do not like drawing balls. All right. And from that's the same size. That is the same size. like height wise, so I need to make this a little taller. And one more over here. Essentially just the ball. There you go. And I guess from here to here we can do one more squash until it actually fully settles in between, right? So it's not going to be as tall, but it is going to be a little wider. Just a little bit. Kind of hugging the edges. Pointy over there. All right. So if we turn off the light table, now we have a fully animated ball bounce. We just have to unlock these, give these a couple more frames. Apply. Lock them again. Actually, we can probably turn this one off. So, right? So it launches itself up with like a lot more force down here, right? Shoots itself really, really high, and with the exact same amount of frames, it's going back down, and tries to catch itself back down here. Usually there'd only really be one squash, but since we're trying to control ourselves to actually gain more power, we're squishing it even more down here, just so that we can get that like same amount of power, and squishing it right before the frames, right before it tries to settle, right over here. So it's really trying to like displace all that power that it gained from coming down here, right? And it's really trying to like push it away so that it's not having to bounce as high. Yeah, so that is the actual more cartoony kind of style realistic ball bounce. Now we actually want to add the tail, and since we're kind of like losing a lot of time right now, I'm just gonna make the tail on a separate layer. New anim, lock that so we don't interfere with it. Okay, so my plan with this is that the ball itself or the tail itself is essentially just gonna try to mimic what the arc is doing, right? We have this arc over here. We have this little bit of an arc, and then an arc over here, an arc over here, and an arc over here. Essentially, our tail's path, just for simplicity's sake, is going to follow that. So let's do it. Alright, cancel. Move this forward. So I'm not gonna give it volume as of yet. I'm just gonna try to give it like its path that it's going. So maybe it's over here, pulls up. So maybe the tail kind of like drags down a little bit. Right? Add empty images. The tail's still moving upwards. Maybe remove that. How do I... There you go. I'm just I'm making it so that like this the light table isn't as showy or prevalent because it's too much right now. Actually, we could probably turn that off and just follow the previous line of action of the tail and attach it to the actual ball itself. Add empty image. At the top over here, this part of the tail is still going up, while this part of the tail is still going down, right? But now, as it starts to fall back down, right? It's spending a lot of time over here. We can have the tail start to actually start to go up again. Still following that previous line, and look, it's one long arc, one long like line that the tail is essentially following, right? Apply. There you go. Actually, we might need to push this a little higher. And a little higher over here. Add empty images. You might notice that like I'll go back and forth with drawings. It's alright to do that because animation is hard. Like if something doesn't work the first time, then it's alright to go back into it. Right? So it's starting to fall back down again. But this tail, this end part is still kind of like making its way back up, right? At this point, it will kind of like snap, right? It will go. So we'll go higher than what you kind of expect, because it's a lighter substance, so it's not going to always follow as is. It's going to it might actually just snap at the very top, especially over here, right? So it's already kind of like it plateaus, and then from here to here it should just be like a straightforward snap going up. Whoop. Over here, attach it to the ball.
Rule of acquisition number 111. Treat people in your debt like family. Exploit them.
And you'll notice that, like, because I'm storing power, I decided to let the string kind of like take a different route. But now that it's expanding over here, or the ball is stretching, I still need to follow that route, but like, it's gonna be it's not gonna be as it's not gonna have to be attached. It's almost implied that like it's already following in a sense. And what I'm doing right now is actually called straight ahead animation. Right, I'm going from pose to pose is essentially you choose one pose and you choose another pose and then kind of like break everything down in between. Ball bounces are really, really good like that, but I find things like drag and overlap feel a lot more natural if they're straight ahead. And straight ahead is essentially you start from the beginning of a drawing and work forwards as you're following the drawing. I already have the basics of the physics of the ball, and I have the arc of what the tail is going to be doing. I don't need to do pose to pose, right? Unless there's a specific like hiya pose like that this character is doing at the very top. It's not necessary. So over here, at empty exposure, the tail is going to be a little higher. Tail is going to be a little higher over here as well. This kind of does imply that the ball is rotating, like rotating downwards. But it's easier to portray that the tail is still being dragged while like there's still it's still moving upwards. I guess if we wanted to, we can have the ball or the tip of the tail end up over here and have the tail keep moving upwards like this, right? So the origin of the tail doesn't change, it's not rotating anymore. It's just the ball the tail itself continues to move upwards. At least the line of the line of the tail itself continues to move upwards. How long do we have left? Oof, I gotta rush. Add empty exposures. Right. So the tail keeps going. Maybe there's a bit more of a curve over there now. right? From here, the ball's starting to speed up again. Following that line, attaching at the very end. And this is, by all means, probably the simplest way to do tails. I'm not doing anything super fancy with it. I'm just having it drag, follow the arc, follow this arc over here of the ball, and then kind of like doing follow through. So when one part stops, the rest of the arm will still continue, right? This part stops, the hand still continues. The hand, this part stops, the fingers still continue, and so on and so forth. So it goes, right, like that. And from here, this one's super simple. It's super fast, so I'm just gonna follow this straight down. And same with this. Apply. This one is actually very interesting because we've already squashed it and we're leaving more room to be squashed, right? Let's say the tail ends up over here. It's still gonna follow the line, so let's see what happens. We'll follow this. We'll still follow that line, right? Like it's still trying to get to the point contact of the tail. But maybe now, because we've we'll say that this pose for the tail is essentially this pose. What will happen is that because we have this pose over here where it's still touching the ground, we can actually use that in the next pose, right? So have it have it actually touch the ground down here, flatten out, and then round up. So it like actually hits the ground and it's there for a short amount of time. It's not just the ball that's kind of squishing and controlling its force, it's the tail itself. Once that tail hits the ground, a lot of momentum and a lot of like energy is just lost. And because we're holding it down there, we're controlling that energy. We're not going to be exploding as high as before, right? So this is essentially our squash, but this thing is still, the tail is still squishing, right? Or squishing towards the ground. It's doing like this kind of squish where the ball is doing kind of like this kind of squish.
I don't speak Brazilian, but see if you can understand me. You play, me sing. Together.
And now since we've lost all that energy and momentum, we just follow that, and maybe we just have like a tick over here. It's gonna be a little higher, right? Add empty exposure.
Your English is worse than mine.
Add empty exposure. And see, now that I actually am satisfied with this arc over here, I can actually go back over here, delete this curve, and cater it to suit more this one right here, so that this one pops out a bit more. Right? Maybe not as much as the end over here. And it's still snapping back up. So you'll notice that the ball already has settled, right? We can't do that with the tail. We can't just be like this with the tail and have it be okay. We need to resolve the tail first. So the tail's still following the ground. This is going to be its squash over here, or the contact, kind of like the contact squash. And let's say we actually bring this up a bit. Unlock these. 2 more frames. 2 more frames. 2 more frames. Oh, whoops. 2 more frames. Hold. Repeats. Oh, right. What the heck? Oh, okay, cool. Yes, I can do that as well. Now lock these again. This is kind of like the same kind of like tail animation you'd see in like an old school Disney mouse, like not Mickey Mouse, but like if you can imagine like the mice from Cinderella. Their tails are essentially just lines, right? If you give it volume, then it becomes more 3D, so you get more of the Robin Hood kind of tails. But again, for simplicity's sake, we're just gonna stick with this for now, because I've already gone way past what I planned for. Add empty images. Okay. So what's happening here is that this part of the tail, this tip part, is still going down. If we wanted to, we can actually have this tip over here start to rotate back up a little bit, but because it's still falling down, maybe we can actually have the tail be on the ground, right? And this part of the tail is already up, so this part's resolved. All right, this part of the tail has already resolved. It'll start to, we'll kind of cheat it in a sense where we're kind of hold on. I really have not planned this. I'm just kind of like winging it, at this point. And maybe one more. One or two more. Cancel. Balance images. Cool. We don't need the arcs at this point. We still do need the light table, so it starts to go back up again. This point starts to settle back down. The tail's still going up, right? Like that. And the very final pose will be that. And since I'm not satisfied with this pose, I can delete it. So that it follows a better line. There you go. And why don't we just extend this for another couple of frames. We probably don't need this anymore. Nope, we do. That is the ball. We'll call this tail simplified. Okay. We don't need the arc. Ooh, why? And we still do need the background. Just extending these, just so that like it gives us our minds some time to essentially just be okay with the idea that it has settled, right? That's about 6 frames, more than 6 frames. That's fine. So it's about what? An hour and 43 minutes. And it's still very snappy. It's I can use the last couple of frames to ease it out, but like I think I'm kind of tired at this point. Yeah, so essentially what follow through is how Tails work is that there is always going to be a first, something that's animated first, whether it's the body or, like in this case, it's a ball. That is what we consider the body, right? Like the main body. And I just treated the tail very much like a string. If I'm waving it around, it's gonna follow pretty much the point of what, like it's essentially just gonna follow it in terms of arcs, the same way this string-like tail is doing so, right? So essentially, what's enacting there is drag. So. Say one force is over here. I'm gonna take this because it makes me look weird. It's just to help me draw on the screen better. But like essentially, there's this force that's creating the path, like the motion for the actual tail, and the rest is trying to follow it the best it can, right? So this thing starts going down. This other hand starts following. Pretend it's the thing, right? And it starts following that same path. depending on where the insertion point is on the ball, right? And it will keep going, and say if it's at the top over here, it lingers a little bit before it starts falling down. The string, since it's very, very light, it has that much momentum, and there's not a lot of things bringing it down like this ball is, that this ball's mass does. So it's still gonna have to shoot. It's still gonna shoot its energy back up, like what it does at the top over here, right? It still has all that momentum going up, and then right when the ball starts going down, that's when it starts following it again. The reason it starts going up is because yeah, it does have momentum, but we call that the follow through. We're following through on the action, right? When you swing a baseball bat, the bat doesn't stop at like 90. It doesn't stop like 90 degrees from your hands. Even if you hit the ball or you don't hit the ball, your wrists will rotate, and because the reason it's doing that is because the bat itself has its own weight that it's carrying forward. That's why you always see poses where batters kind of like overswing and miss. It's because, one, they've already put in that much weight into the bat, and also the bat is now starting to carry them, as opposed to instead of them 100% controlling the bat, right? Because now they've given it that kind of momentum that they need to control. A tail isn't as, or at least a string tail like this isn't as heavy as a bat, so it's not gonna drag the ball down, but it will still keep moving. But yeah, that took almost an hour or 2 hours to explain and draw. But yeah, that is another episode of me and my imaginary friends, and like learning to animate, I guess. I still don't have a title for this show. Like, maybe I did in the previous episodes, but I forgot, and like it was 2 weeks ago, so I'm gonna need to find out something for it. But yeah, yeah, I hope you learned something. Again, let me know what I'm still gonna keep going with like this kind of like curriculum that I had, that pretty much I was taught in a week-by-week basis, that I have in my head. Like it's not 100% planned out. I'm just kind of like doing it on the spot from my previous experiences of like learning as an animator on the field, but also kind of learning more new things as I keep going. Like, I've never had personally I've never had to animate a ball like this at all, ever, right? I've had to do a little bit of research on how to actually kind of do anticipation without doing anticipation, and again, a good reference for me was Sonic the Hedgehog, because he does kind of like morph into a ball and then does kind of like this weird little like bean-like shape, and he squishes, and then right, and he goes this, and then squishes again. This isn't too extreme for Sonic. Like, he will probably get there at some point, and then shoo, right?
We also talked about the deeper
And it feels believable because, like, you know,
nostalgia.
it's kind of like he's jumping over here, and then he's kind of like holding himself up in the air until he starts going back down. But yeah, again, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hope you guys like it. Anyways, bye.